All right, so this is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I believe this is the last movie, but I can be wrong about that. I mean, they keep bringing up the old movies a lot. We'll talk about that, but I could be wrong about that. But it is directed once again by Christopher McQuarrie. He did the last one and Fallout. I can't remember if he did Rogue Nation, but he's been around for a number of these movies now. Uh, I've seen all these movies. Some I like, some I don't like, but I loved Mission Impossible Fallout. Right, easily one of my favorite movies of that year, and I just I loved it. I was really impressed by it. And I was not impressed that much by the last movie, Dead Reckoning Part 1. Uh, I like the action and the spectacle of it, and Ethan Hunt and Tom Cruise, in that group. I think they have a good dynamic and good moments together. But the whole thing with the entity, this AI that has access to all these different things, and this character Gabriel running around and having a past with Ethan Hunt that I don't care about, and it feels like a retcon. Uh, that stuff I didn't care for. I felt like the movie was overall a mess. And to be honest with you, I kind of feel the same way about this one. So in this, the stakes are really high and the story is very complicated, convoluted, really. So Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise once again, him and his group, mainly Grace, played by Haley Atwell, she was in the last movie, Luther, played by Ving Rhames, and Benji, played by Simon Pegg. They've been in a number of these movies. They're trying to take out the entity still, and Ethan Hunt's gone rogue because he doesn't trust the government, and then and things like that. But they have to find the entity's source code to do a bunch of complicated stuff to trap the entity before it wipes out humanity. I mean, the stakes are really high. Like they have, I think it was 72 hours before the entity takes control of the nuclear arsenals of different governments and just wipes out humanity. It's like wow. So there's a lot of mistrust amongst different governments and things like that, and amongst people. And so that's also an aspect here. Gabriel's still running around, played by Asai Morales. He's on the outs with the entity as a result of failing or whatever in the last movie, but he's still around. He's still an antagonist in this. I was very frustrated with this movie, and we will get to all that. But I still think the action is well done. I like the hand-to-hand stuff. I think it's well choreographed and things like that. I think the movie looks great. The spectacle is great. There's this thing with the plane, with two planes towards the end. I thought that was fantastic, and as always, Tom Cruise is amazing. He's up there in age, but I mean, he's still a movie star. He definitely proves that he's got a lot of presence in here. I like his interactions with the people in his group. This is really well done, emotional moment with one of the characters in his group, and I think that really works too. I like the overall setup of what's going on, just like in the last movie. I like this all-knowing AI that can just pretty much do anything, being able to get access to nukes and potentially wipe out humanity. Uh, Really, really high stakes and a really well set up, impossible mission for Ethan Hunt to go on this time, and the whole thing of Ethan Hunt not trusting the government or governments with the entity because of just how powerful it is, and so he's kind of once again gone rogue because of it. I like that. Like, there's good stuff here, good moments between the characters. The action that is here is thrilling. It just the writing, the writing is an issue here. This movie is the most convoluted movie I think I've ever seen. Like, for as much as this is like a thrilling movie full of spectacle and things like that, a lot, and I'm talking a lot, and this is a long movie of this movie is just standing around talking, explaining what Ethan Hunt needs to do, what's going on, what the entity's doing. There's this whole thing where Ethan Hunt like is able to learn things from the entity, so that it's like, oh well, maybe the entity is trying to mislead him and things like that. He has these different interactions with people that he needs help from for what he's trying to do, and so there's the, oh well, I don't know, well, will they help him? Will they not? Will he survive? Will he not? It's so much of it is just talking and explaining, and it's so complicated. It's to the point where I can't remember where in the movie, but there's a point where I just stopped trying to understand the details of this. I was just like, look, what I retain of what they're saying, yeah, I'll retain it. But if I don't get it, I'm not gonna stress over it. I'm not gonna get a headache trying to figure this thing out because it is just detail after detail after detail. At a certain point, it needs to be simplified. You can't just throw anything you can think of into here and make it as complex as possible to the point where the audience just gives up trying to understand it. The people in the movie theater with me, they kept getting up constantly. There's a guy in front of me, and he seemed to be enjoying the movie. He was clapping at points and stuff like that. But there were plenty of points where he would just get up and go, either to the bathroom or what. And other people were doing that too, because I was towards kind of the front. So I would see people on the other side get up and go. I'd see people go from that side, and I completely understood because if I wasn't reviewing the movie, like I would be tuning out a lot of what's going on in here, just waiting for the next action sequence. I mean, because it is mostly standing around talking and explaining this stuff and going back and forth with characters about what needs to happen, what do they need to do, and the retcons. I heard somebody call this the final retcon, Mission Impossible, the final retcon. So they go to the old movies a lot in this, a lot, and so they go back and they make characters more important than they needed to be, and things like that. Like there's a character from the last movie. He seemed like he was just somebody going after Ethan Hunt. Turns out he's related to somebody from the first movie. You know how many movies ago it's been? You know how long ago that's been? That felt completely forced. It all comes down to the payoff of that. It's like a brief moment between the two at the end. It's like, why is that there? And then there's this other character that turns out to be an important character who popped up. I believe that was the first movie, and they make him a big deal, and they keep like showing the clip of the character walking in after Ethan comes in and steals whatever he was stealing at that time to be like, oh, this is who that character is, and it's like, why are you doing that? It's already kind of, at least it feels like a retcon. I don't think it's been mentioned before, but it's so many movies, it's been so many years. I can't remember every detail. There's no way anybody could, unless you just watched all the movies recently. There's no way you can remember this stuff. But the whole thing with Gabriel, where he has this past with Ethan Hunt, that felt unnecessary. Like, you didn't even really need that, really. Then I didn't like that from the last movie. I don't like it here. And there's also the rabbit's foot of it all. So I believe it was Mission Impossible 3, his wife, Michelle Monaghan, I think, played her in that movie. He had to get rabbit's foot for Philip Seymour Hoffman to help his wife. And turns out rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3 turned out to be an important thing and was part of what made the entity. I guess that's kind of a spoiler, but why is that in this? Why are you going back? Because that's the thing. Rabbit's foot was never actually, it was never told what it is. At the end of the movie, Ethan Hunt's like, well, what was rabbit's foot? And he just walks out without finding out. So it's like, well, it was never said what it was, so let's just make it to where it was something that has to do with the entity so that we can be like, oh, Ethan Hunt, you're partially responsible for this. So you kind of have a responsibility to, take care of business here. This is like, God damn, it's like so unnecessary. It's like, well, you didn't need any of that. It's just a mess. It's a mess of explaining like this overly complicated, complex, throwing out all these terms and all these things, all the different things that Ethan Hunt's supposed to do, has to do, how impossible it is, how he'll probably die while he's doing it. These characters I don't care about. They brought a character back that died at the end of the last movie. It's like somehow she survived, I guess. I still don't care about her. A mess of characters, a mess of explaining, a mess of exposition, a mess of just convoluted nonsense. Like the villain of this movie, the true villain, is not the entity. It's whoever wrote this script. I mean, it is an absolute mess, even worse than the last movie. But the saving grace for this is that it has a really great climax, right? Like it's easier to understand what's immediately going on with the plan and everything like that. They kind of walk you through it in a way that's less complicated. Still a mess of characters and things like that. Different factions show up, and it's like, okay, whatever. But they had the spectacle sequence at the end was really great, really fun. The stakes are really high. There's fantastic tension. You actually care about what's going on. Like you really do. And it feels like the end of Mission Impossible Fallout or some of these other ones. it really worked at the end to the point where it was able to save it. So because man, up to that point, it's a long movie too of just standing around and explaining this convoluted nonsense. This movie really needed that climax because it really is just that good. Right? In a better movie, I'd be like, man, I'd be singing this movie's praises. I'd be like, man, this is not as good as Fallout, but hey, it's really great. I'll still maybe give it my highest rating. As is, I was like, man, this was a rental for a while. But as is with that ending, which I think really works, it ends up being a good enough. I end up feeling the same way, around the same way I did as the last movie, as Dead Reckoning Part One, where it's a mess, but the things that work about it are able to elevate it and still make me go, this is fine. But sitting through this thing, man, I'm telling you, dude. If I didn't kind of like at least partially check out and be like, okay, I'm just not gonna understand all these details. Let me just pick up whatever I can. I'd have really gotten a headache in this thing, man. I really would have. So anyway, yeah, that's Mission Impossible, the Final Reckoning, or Final Retconning if you like that one. It's fitting. Uh, yeah, definitely, it's worth seeing, but it's definitely not worth praising. I don't think, and you're really gonna have to sit through a lot of of nonsense. But yeah, that's Final Reckoning. Yeah, go see it, I guess.